The intro to this video you're getting now is different to what I originally intended to be. You see, I wanted to do it in like all pirate get-up and things like that. You know, with a fancy hat and 2 eye patches and a hook for a hand and 3 peg legs and a glass of grog and things like that. All while singing a sea shanty. The problem is I can't sing sea shanties. I can't sing anything for my life. So I don't know what else to do. I mean, I've got my book of scripts here, so should we have a look at it? I've got some Hotline Miami fanfiction if you want me to read that to you instead. I've got a script for Diddy Kong Racing. Should you just review that instead? Alright, everybody stop. This joke is getting far too silly for the expectations of our viewers, as outlined in the Codex Videogamus. Greetings, my name is Inquisitor Colonel Killjoy, here to make sure that no unfunny jokes or unnecessary interruptions are made during these broadcasts to ensure the full enjoyment of our viewers for these videos. I will now quote from Section 84B of the Codex Videogamus to make sure that everybody understands the rules. Firstly, an Inquisitor Colonel may not be interrupted. Oh yeah, that was the guy who was supposed to interrupt the original intro. I quite like. Will you just get on with it? Alright. This is downloadable Discontent, when the content's large and no extra charge. By the way, this will probably be the last time I do things like this. It's just that I know you guys get a bit tired of it, and bloody hell, so do I. Alright, I'm doing it! This is Freedom Cry!
Until now, I've never had a high opinion of the Assassin's Creed games. I've never had an opinion of them when I wasn't high either. I mean, the piss-poor attempts at being a stealth game and QTE combat are things I take for granted in this series that's essentially become as disposable as a snotty hanky. And has all the appeal of one too. Although, after playing Black Flag, the Assassin's Creed game for people who don't like Assassin's Creed, I've felt the allure of the series' entries past and present. Maybe the collectibles have gotten better, and I can make sense of that Derek bloke's time-hopping story. Then again, hell might freeze over and I can go ice skating. Speaking of ice, I could do with breaking it with a downloadable Discontent disclaimer. This series is made in the assumption that you've played the base game, so there may be spoilers regarding Edward Kenway's story, and will only be briefly touching upon his gameplay. I'm also aware this is a standalone expansion as well, so I may have to bundle other expandalones into DD as well. Hey, don't blame me, it's Dawn of War 2 Retribution's fault I'm in this mess! Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry takes place 15 years after the events of Black Flag, when Kenway's quartermaster Adewale, or Adewale, or just Aid, is running his own ship and crew for the Assassins. However, his current mission is halted when he finds the Templars are more involved in liberating slaves for their own purposes, and as an ex-slave he's wondering if his priorities are well placed. He sidetracks from his original intentions with the aim to liberate the slaves from the oppressive 1730s Saint-Domingue, but also trying to justify carrying out his current quest. You'll have to bear with me because I can't begin to do the story justice. Adewale was criminally underutilized in the base game, as the racial tensions between him and the Jackdaw's crew were only mildly touched upon, and yet it scarred the writing and character depth. At long last, this character has been released from the bondage of his designers, able to now release his berserker rage on all who wronged him, while also being a handsome devil. Ade isn't the swashbuckler Kenway was, nor the sly fox that Ezio Altair were. Instead, he's a brutish, cold-hearted, bone-breaking,
brazenly avaricious, duplicitous, larcenous ursine.
Well, maybe not all that, but his attacks are far from the elegant dancing and graceful dueling that previous and later assassins were known for. His melee weapons only consist of the assassin's wrist blades, and a machete, and his gigantic, sexy hands. I might as well be his blunderbuss. He can pull my trigger and blow my load with those waffle lines any day. Anyway, speaking of penises, Adewale can hold a number of long-range cock extensions, such as the aforementioned blunderbuss, a short-ranged one-shot killer that can send its victims flying. Or what's left of them, at any rate.
You need to find a place to hide until nightfall.
The blowpipe and rope darts also return, made even more useful now detection has a real impact on how you progress, as do the smoke bombs. A new addition is firecrackers, which distract enemies. I mean, who doesn't love fireworks? I don't, because they make too much noise and they keep me up all night. I prefer bonfires because they make a nice sound and smell nice.
Lemon curry?
Unlike all, if not most, assassins of the Brotherhood, Eddie opts for heavy swings and stomping to stealthy strikes and dancing around like a fairy. Still, he needs to be stealthy lest he be hit in the feels with the guild hammer. Failing stealth missions doesn't necessarily come from a game over screen and that stupid Ellie Pepsi-inducing screen-tearing shite! Rather, innocents will be killed for fear of you rousing a rebellion amongst them. This is the main addition to the Expandalone, saving slaves to man the Experte Creda, your ship, or join the Maroons, an ex-slave rebel group with ties to the Templars. You can't recruit dead slaves though, so raiding plantations and killing the overseers sneakily will maximize your performance. Other things you can do to bolster the numbers of free men is by releasing slaves from jail, punishments, work, and being auctioned off. In the case of the latter, there's no actual bidding process, you just pay 500 reals and bugger off, which is kinda boring. Could have been quite tense too. Your only other option is to do what Assassin's Creed does best. Go sailing. By going to the seas or Saint Domingue you can board slave ships, but it's advised you don't attack. At least, not that particular ship. Take out the bloated bitches' escorts though, and you can take all the slaves to an unpenetrated hold. I wouldn't mind if Adewale penetrated my hold. Moving on. The sailing hasn't changed much. The same weapons are used, boarding mechanics are no different, and there's a lot less upgrading to be had. What has changed is how fun it is to take to the high seas and chart the uncharted. What few locations can be explored are Miega treasures, and even less have any treasure that's worth a shit. Unfortunately, they're kind of spoilery, so I won't show them. They are quite nice though. And what's all this meant to add up to? Upgrades. And open up a couple of missions. The upgrades are pretty much ripped out of the base game, consisting mostly of pouches for ammo and later better machetes and portable cannons. Golly, just thinking of Ade's cannon. No wait, I've already done that line. Shit! So yeah, if that doesn't float your boat, I don't know what will. I mean, Lord knows I love me some upgrades.
And now for my final thoughts. Wait a minute. This isn't even my line.
Being a lot more serious and less homoerotic now, AC4 Freedom Cry isn't as super great as I'd hoped. I love that we're at long last learning about the painfully sexy slab of man-meat Adewale and his struggles of his kinsman, but it's mired by gimmicks and a boring arse world. The writing will appeal to fans of the series because I could barely make a lick of sense of it, so most of the fans can decipher it and love it themselves. What I did love though was the characters and how they feel about their circumstances regarding freedom and the Templars. However, Ade could be better. His attacks could be weightier as combat still feels like a rhythm game, which isn't a bad thing, but it's only shown in kill animations rather than everything else prior to the final move. Some new animation showing his bulk sacrificing speed wouldn't go amiss either, as he seems as nimble as Kenway, unfortunately. I mean, we already have an Edward Kenway. We already have Ezio. And as guilty as I was for leaving slaves behind for the sake of getting treasure or, you know, getting on with the goddamn game, this sadness was soon to pass, almost immediately in fact. After a mere 3 hours of liberating slaves in and out of other business, I was done empathizing, and it didn't mesh well with the tone of the game. After an abrupt ending, I realised there were only 3 exciting moments: when Ade lands on Port-au-Prince, the only real quest hub in the game by the way, and the final 2 missions. I had no wish to go back to the game after that. So enough beating off into the bush, beating around the bush. Do I recommend this DLC? No. The main story feels like a side feature to liberating slaves which quickly becomes dull, and most of the missions consist of tailing and listening into conversations. I guess this is an Assassin's Creed game, but only in the prerequisites for missions. And finally, a word on the pricing. If you own the base game already, you may wish to get the DLC for £7.99. However, if you don't own it, you can still get the standalone version for £11.99. Either way, you'd be better off with Black Flag. Everything Freedom Cry does, the base game does far more of, and far, far better. Apart from Sexy Eddie.
Cool. Shake your groove thing.
Until the next time, you scurvy jagabats, my name is Johnbonne, your number 1 source for number 2 games, and I hope you're content with this episode of Downloadable Discontent. And I apologise for the silliness earlier. I guess it's just what happens when I'm not fully prepared. I mean, I had all the kit and everything. It's like I had a flintlock pistol and I had a cutlass and I couldn't use it because I can't do a decent pirate impression. Oh well, until the next time, ta-ta for now.
Lemon curry?